Just imagine for a moment. What if you woke up this morning and found $6 million sitting in your bank account, yet not a single person in the world knew about it? Not your neighbors. Not your friends. Not even the security guard who sees you every night and still believes you're just an ordinary employee. You still drive the same old car. You still wear simple clothes. You still live in the same neighborhood, where everyone sees you as an average person. But the truth is, you no longer have to work for money, because years ago, you built something that still quietly earns money for you every single day. And the surprising part is, this story didn't begin with a huge company, the stock market, or a lottery ticket. It began at a bus station. It was an ordinary afternoon. The sun had started to lose its intensity, and the city's central bus station was as crowded as ever. Dozens of buses stood in long lines. One bus was unloading passengers. Another was preparing to depart, while a third had just pulled in. Every few minutes, a new bus arrived, occupied its assigned spot for a short time, then departed, only to be replaced immediately by another. The place was filled with noise. The roar of engines. The calls of conductors. The rush of passengers. But your attention wasn't on the buses. Your eyes were fixed on the ground beneath them. Then, a question suddenly crossed your mind. These buses aren't parking here for free, so who actually gets paid for this bus station? It was the kind of question that thousands of people around you had probably never even considered. The very next day, you started researching the bus station. After hours of digging for information, you discovered that it was managed by a private company. Every bus paid a daily or monthly fee for the right to park there, pick up passengers, and operate its service. You picked up a calculator. If one bus pays only a small parking fee each day, and hundreds of buses pass through this station daily, how much money does that add up to by the end of the month? Then another question entered your mind. Who is actually wealthier, the person driving the buses, or the person who simply owns the land? At that very moment, your perspective changed. For the first time, you understood that successful people aren't always the ones working the hardest or moving the fastest. More often, they're the ones who have built a place or a system where other people generate income for them every single day. From that day forward, you began to see the world differently. Other people saw stores. You looked for the owner. Other people saw cars. You wondered who owned the parking lot. Other people saw buses. You calculated the income of the bus station. And perhaps that single difference in the way you thought was what transformed your entire life in the years that followed. That one question changed the way you think forever. From that day on, whenever you walked through a busy place, your eyes were no longer on the people. Instead, you noticed the system that was quietly making money from them. A week later, you returned to the same bus station. This time, you weren't there just to look, you were there to understand. You sat on a bench for nearly 2 hours, simply observing. How many buses arrived? How long they stayed? Who collected the fees? When the crowds were at their busiest, and when business slowed down. By the time evening came, several pages of your notebook were filled with numbers. When you got home, you ran the calculations again. For the first time, you realized that successful people don't become wealthy because of luck. They become wealthy because they ask better questions than everyone else. You didn't have much capital, so you didn't dream of buying the entire bus station. Instead, you told yourself, if I can't buy the whole property, I'll start with a smaller opportunity around it. That single thought led you to a small parking area near the bus station. Every day, dozens of vans and small cars parked there, but the place was poorly managed. The owner was elderly and had lost interest in running the business. You met with him for several weeks. You didn't rush. You simply tried to understand him. Finally, one day, he said, if you can manage it, I'm willing to lease this place to you. It was the first major opportunity of your life. You gathered your savings, cut down on unnecessary expenses, and took over the parking area. The first month's profit wasn't impressive. On paper, it was probably less than what you could have earned from taking on an extra job. But you were happy. Because, for the first time, you realized that money wasn't coming in exchange for every hour you worked. It was coming from a system you had built yourself. Every morning, people parked their vehicles. Every evening, they returned. And with every payment they made, your confidence grew stronger. You made one simple rule. Every dollar of profit would not be spent. It would be used to buy the next asset. That rule became your greatest strength. 2 years passed. People still saw you as an ordinary person. You still wore simple clothes. You still drove the same old car. But your assets were quietly growing. You no longer looked only at parking lots. One day, you met an old friend. He had just bought a brand new luxury car. Excitedly, he kept telling everyone how much it had cost. Then he looked at you and asked, "And you? You're still driving that old car?" You simply smiled. Because you knew. Most people judge the value of what they can see standing right in front of them. Very few understand the value of the assets that quietly generate income, month after month. That night, you wrote one sentence in your journal. Wealth is not built through noise, wealth is built through quiet decisions. That sentence would become the guiding principle of your life for years to come.